Hi, welcome to the coaching game. I am Laurie Lawson, and the lovely lady to I don't know which side you're on,
That's all
according to the
right.
screen.
Whichever side
Yeah,
it is, I'm
you can be
Terry
the lovely
Yoffe,
lady. How's that? Yeah.
Terry Yoffe, and we are doing Coaches Creating Change. Woohoo!
No, against all odds. We had a little, couple of technical snafus, so to
We
speak,
did.
and it was like, what's going on? And then but we had been talking earlier, and we said, well, what are we going to talk about today? And we were going, oh gosh, there are so many things, and then what haven't we done? And then we decided, well, maybe a good topic would be, well, why the heck are we doing this show? What do we want to get out with this show and with our shows that we do? And Terry has a podcast and I have a radio show. And it's like,
Hmm.
so we thought we might want to talk about what was our goal? What's our goal in doing all this? So that we figured we'll see where we go from there because obviously it's a hot summer day and we decided we're doing a show. So let's figure out why. We'll
I,
let you in on the secret.
I, you know, I think for me, one of the things I love is relevance and what can we impart that could be relevant, that might give somebody an aha moment, that somebody can learn something from, take away something from. We all can, at least in my feeling, I think we can all gain something from hearing what others have to say.
Definitely. It's funny. I love the word relevance. It's like because you and I talk about it a lot. We strive to be relevant. It's like what's new in the coaching
Mhm.
world? What can we do to keep ourselves up to date, etc. But I know when I was in the middle of my coach training, many, gosh, I'm really 18 years ago. Oh
Mm.
my gosh, 18 years ago. I was finding it so rewarding personally that it was like, oh my gosh, I want to share this with everybody. I want everybody to feel as good as I do. I want everybody to go have millions of what you said, aha moments. It's like, oh wow, is that why I do that? And I said, how can I do that? Because coaching, I don't know how your training was, but my coaching was like, here's how you do one-on-one, and changing the person, changing the world one person at a time. And I went, no, I want bigger. I want to reach
Mm.
more people. And so I started out doing workshops and things like that. So yeah, and we both have the characteristic in what we're doing is having guests. It's like I want to shine a spotlight on this person, I want them to there's some cool people out there doing some cool things. So tell me, I know that you started a podcast. What was what you wanted to I know because you've told us that a couple times. But what would you want to get done with that?
I I've been a firm believer in what is the question creating change. How do you do that? I
Mm,
think all of us on some level want to do it. It's, but I think people think creating change, how magnanimous is that? How big is that? It's bigger than I can do. But if it's one little thing, you know, if it's smiling at somebody and making their day, you may have created change in that moment, right?
right.
Coming out of the grocery store last year, a really elderly woman was trying to hail a cab and carry her groceries. And I helped her. I said, let me help you. I flagged down a cab. I helped her in. And you could see, she said, thank you so much. That made me feel so good. And I'm sure it helped her. So whether it's something as small as that, or if you're a leader using your platform and your voice to really create change in the business landscape, that's another format. So it was born out of wanting to hear what people's stories were in how they are creating change, as I say, in their corner of the world.
I like that. I'm sure you changed her day. I'm sure you, I have something on magnet on my refrigerator that says, be more kind. Everybody can use a little more kindness, no matter how kind you think you are, but
Right.
a lot of people add that I think that will probably listen to us, maybe not, because we're kind of a coach oriented audience, but for those who haven't been through all the training and everything, it's like, what's what's up with the change? Why do we have to change?
Mm.
What's the benefit of that? I think it's because it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to, you're the only person that you're going to get to know 100% as well as you do. And I am constantly amazed at things that I'm aware of, and it's like, I could have changed this years ago, but I didn't know about it, And that's what I'm hoping too with change. It's like, yes, I love the idea of changing the world, one person at a time, or one group at a time, and leaders can change an entire corporation. But also, I love it on a personal level. It's like,
Mhm.
wow, what what secrets have I been keeping from myself, and what can I do with that? What's the opportunity there? So I think change is great, and I think that's a great number one priority. Why are we doing this show? Because we want to change something.
I I've done I've done some webinars and I've included that the only thing that's constant is change, right?
Right.
And this general Eric Shinetsky, I think, I love his quote. If you don't like change, you're going to hate irrelevance even more.
And we're back to irrelevance. I love it. Yeah.
And it's about, and I was speaking to a woman yesterday, and she said to me, you can't be a leader if you haven't led yourself
Ooh,
to self care and taking care of yourself. You have to be your own leader.
wow, that's a great
And that
concept.
really resonated with me,
Yeah.
that if you're not self caring and making your own changes, it's very difficult to go out and even coach, right? If there's an area in you or me in a coach that they haven't worked on or changed, my guess is it would be very difficult for them to help somebody else make that change.
I agree. I think in an ideal world, because they'll tell you, and I'm sure you heard it. Terry and I went to different coaching schools, but they'll tell you, you don't have to know anything about what the client knows. You just have to know how to coach, and that's true. But if you've got a block,
Mhm.
and you hear the other about one, that's the best thing about coaching. It's like it's a profession where you can help others, you can help them change, but you cannot help but change yourself while you're doing it because you're getting self-awareness notes and everything. So, but if you've got that block there, say like you've always been afraid to you value your comfort zone. You're not going to help. It's going to be very difficult for you to get somebody out of their comfort zone if indeed you're still valuing yours. So yeah, it's a constant self-awareness, and that's another great reason why I'm sure we do it. We do education, self-education. It's like I love my guests. I'm always learning something from
Mhm.
them. It's like, wow, you're doing that? Okay, well, let me tell everybody that you're doing that. That's so cool.
Right.
So
Right.
that's once again, we're back to, oh my gosh, we keep coming back to relevance, but
It's
that's a great word.
it's so true. And that was another reason I started the podcast, to really stay relevant and tap into what successful people, and I use that word loosely,
Mhm.
are doing in their corner of the world, whomever it is. And I tried very hard to really mix the type of people that I have, even coaches, it's not about them as a coach. It's about
Yeah.
what they are doing with their clients to help them create change.
Great point. Great point. Yeah. And I started out with authors and coaches and now I've found I threw my masseuse in once because he does a whole body mind thing. I mean, and there are so many people out there that should connect. Not, I don't want to do should, that could connect and expand and benefit. And I just love the idea that I'm helping them do that. I like to be a one of the links, I guess. I want to be a link in that chain of awareness and improvement and things like that. So yeah, do you have any requirements for your guest?
Um, we do a prep so they understand the flow of the conversation,
Hmm.
that it's really about creating change and where are they doing it? Where are they helping people do it? I try to stay relevant with topics of
Right.
of um, especially in the business landscape,
Yeah.
because leaders today are being challenged and it's very chaotic as to who they have to be, how they show up. It's
Yeah.
it's not business as usual any longer.
No.
And so that's one thing we talk about. Another thing is I ask them once we finish if they would then put the conversation up on their social media.
Oh,
So it's
that's a good idea.
mini influencers. So I put it up, they put it up, and it just helps to get the word out there.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I kind of I tell my I have I ever ruled out any guest? Trying to think if I thought the personality wasn't going to fit, and that
Mhm.
was just very few cases. But as far it's like I tell my guest, if you're doing something out there and you're helping somebody, or you're doing something differently, or you're attempting a new project, come on in. Let's tell us about it. Let's
Mhm.
find out what's going on. And because coaching is so encompassing, it encompasses everything that you do. There are many aspects to coaching. So I really just say, bring your innovations and bring your work, your hard work that you're doing, and tell us who you're looking to reach. And I just think we just keep building and building on the networking, which is good because I never really loved to go to networking events. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Well,
here's my
right. I
phone, here's
agree.
what I do. Yeah. So I'd rather do it this way. I think you reach a lot more people too with social media. So
And one of the things I've been doing is being asked to be on other people's podcasts, radio shows.
mhm.
I just did yesterday a live podcast on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
So I've done two of those. I've done other people's podcasts. So it's having the opportunity to talk. Not so much about me, more about what can I impart as to what I had to do to create change for myself,
Mm,
and being willing to take a leap of faith, being willing to get out of my own way, being willing to even not have it work out.
right.
So is a lot of, truly, you can't do any of that being in a comfort zone. Nothing is going to come to you in a comfort zone. You have to be willing to show up, get dressed, show up, and be out there no matter what.
Right. And I think one of your favorite words, you have to be vulnerable.
Mm,
You can't expect people to spill their guts and tell their innermost feelings and their difficulties and their trials if you're not willing to share your own. And it's like I used to think, oh, I could never do a television show or radio show until I got my stuff together, until I'm so perfect that,
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
no, that's absolutely not the way to do it. It's like I love when you and I do this online and when we're doing it and in the show and we're learning, it's like, oh yeah, that's good. I like learning from you and everybody else. It's like, and I'm more than happy to admit I don't know everything. There's a lot that I
Who
don't
does?
really. And so teach me everything and I'll be glad to share it with whoever I can. So
And I think our shows, it's a back and forth. It's imparting change, coaches creating change. What's out there that we're looking at, that we're tapping into, that we're telling people about? Um, how are we operating in our own little universe?
right.
You know, um, it's I think it's a great medium.
I think you know what, and I think the pandemic brought it to us even more. Because before when Terry and I would tape a show, we'd have to get a date together, then we'd have to go to the studio, which by the way is moving like a few blocks from my house. Yay.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, like it's like okay, but which it wasn't that far. Terry had a bigger trip than I did, and then we'd have and if it was an out of town person, we'd have to say, well, okay, then we have to coordinate when you're going to be in New York City, and now it has just opened social media and
Hmm.
Zoom especially has just opened up the doors. It's like anybody from anywhere you can have a chat with. And so even though we had to learn to operate differently, the yeah, and still are learning as witnessed this morning by me. Um, but we're just expanding our horizons so amazingly. I've done all the I countries, Ireland, Italy, Israel. I've done workshops in those countries, and I haven't. Well, I have been to two of them, but I haven't been to Israel yet, and yet I still did a workshop. So India, that it's
Wow.
it's just amazing, what we can do with social media. And I think for both of us, we just said we're not really sure what we're doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'll learn as I go. I know Terry was going, I'm so nervous about this, and I go, you do this all the time. And now, do you feel better? You feel like you've mastered
Oh, yeah. I mean, doing the podcast, even though they're just audio,
it?
right?
Yeah.
Um, Getting them up, and I do some video clips. So I take a piece of the podcast, 40-second, 50-second piece, and give it to the client or the interviewee, and they put it up. So I'm I'm okay,
Yeah.
not every podcast is different, even though it is just audio. And then I'll listen to it and I'll say, would have been great if I asked this question or that. But it is what it is.
And you learn. That's how you learn. It's trial by error, in the moment. So
That's right.
and you just keep learning. And I think that's part of the charm. And it's also, if you had told me 20 years ago, you know what, you're gonna love public speaking, I would have said, you have lost your mind. I do not like and I know
Yeah.
when I was going, that was one of the requirements when I was taking coach training. Everybody had to do a presentation. Well, we didn't have to do 10 got to do the presentation, and then the rest of the class could hand theirs in. And I sat and was quiet and let the 10
Mm,
spaces be taken up. And I went, okay, I write well. And then somebody said something around and said, I can't do it. Does anybody want the slot? And I said, yes. And I said, oh my God, why did I do that? And I had such a ball doing it finally. And it was like, sometimes you have to just, what is it Brene Brown says? Courage is fear walking. You just have to do it while you're
mm,
scared out of your bones.
exactly.
And just
Being
keep doing it.
being a warrior, getting up
Yeah,
and just, even if you fall, getting back up into the arena. But the
yeah,
thing is, I've been in the public eye for so many years. I did fashion shows, right? I get up in front of an audience years ago, and that's what I did, or getting up and doing presentations in front of people. Certainly when we were president of the ICF, getting up in front of our chapter,
Right.
or I ran a mentoring program, and I had to get up every mentoring time frame. So getting up in front of people has been there, but it's still different, each time. And certainly being on Zoom and doing these. So we learn, and I think learning's a good thing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be relevant.
Back to that word, yes.
It's really about relevance. And I don't care how old you are. I think if you want to be in the flow of life and learn something, you have to stay relevant, and whatever that means and whatever that entails, whether it's us doing the show or my doing a podcast or doing a workshop.
I think maybe another word for relevant is taking advantage of what's out there, utilizing what's out there. It's like it's like I keep thinking I should be more relevant in my music. I'm not a hip hop fan.
Oh,
I'm liking it a little better, but it's like, so what? Go do something else. But keep yourself, keep your mind occupied and keep learning, like you said, because I think that's what keeps the brain going. And also there's a sense of accomplishment. It's like, oh, I never thought I'd be able to do that. And it's like, oh, I can. So maybe I can do this next thing, and to just keep going. And I think I would tell people, and I would tell the people about the public speaking. It's like, if you're afraid, to just do it once, and then it gets easier every time you do it,
mhm.
and you can add flourishes and do what you want. But just do something, and it doesn't have to be up to the minute, up to the date. Just do something that's good for you, something that is a challenge for you, and something that's going to get you a little further along the path.
Well, I think the word relevance is just a word. I
Mhm.
think everyone
That
can,
we keep using, yeah.
yeah, but everyone can decide what it means for them. Being
Mhm.
up to date. I'm not saying I have to know every single area of life.
Right.
I keep it where it's meaningful for me and what's important to me. So when I talk to people, I learn something. The business world is important to me in what's going on.
Right.
How is the business landscape being affected today? Thanks to you, Janique will be on my podcast in October
Hey. Oh,
on mental
fantastic.
health and
Oh, good.
addiction. How important is that today?
Yeah, yeah. That's
So
I'm thrilled to hear that. Yeah, and do send me the notice. Or do send me the broadcast. I'd love to hear it.
you're on my list. You will get it.
I am. You're right. Yeah, it's you're right. It is just a word. And I went through a period, I guess it was late 2021, where I was trying to it was like I have time to take this class and I have time to take
Oh
this
gosh.
webinar. And suddenly I looked at my calendar and I go, what are you doing? It's like, well, I want to stay up to date and everything. And I went, I can't do that. So just what you said, you have to pick what's important to you. What I, hmm, I may not need a class on how to shovel snow successfully. I don't, that's not a part, but there is something there is a class that I know. So your time is valuable. You have to use it in good health and good mental health. It's like what's gonna move me along the best. So I finally cleaned out my calendar and went, okay, that's it. I have to be more
Oh
active here.
yeah.
But I went through that and it was like, well, I have the time. Why wouldn't I do it? It's because I I want to enjoy what I'm doing. So,
Gosh. So that's true. I mean, for me, I did a lot of walking. I got to know myself, right? I did
yeah, yeah.
podcasts, I did webinars. Um, I filled in the blanks of what ultimately I wanted to do down the road.
Yeah. I mean, yes, yes, we know the pandemic is not over and it was not easy and a lot of
Right,
sorrow came out of it. But there were also so many good things. And if ever coaches were needed and coaches, and but the problem was we had to figure out, okay, what's our role now? Because this is a whole different game. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. I know you were doing business and career and stuff, and then suddenly, not that that wasn't important, but it was like, oh my gosh, maybe this other thing is more important. What kind of leader am I suddenly? Thought I had that role, but my role's totally changed. So uh interesting. It's but yes, walking and I think we all took better care of ourselves a little bit, and adapted, and I think we're still adapting. Don't you feel that?
absolutely. Um, things have changed, right? People
Mm,
are more remote. They're working more remotely. Some are
right.
going back to the office, maybe not full time. And what does that look like for people? How are they faring? Um, People have changed jobs, some of my clients. What does that look like for them? How is that going to work out? So I think we're all in transition of some sort or another and figuring out what are next steps for us. I think that's a question a lot of people are asking. What's next for me? Is the company I'm in meeting the standards of what I'm looking for? Right? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to hang my hat? What am I expecting from the company I'm working at? And many other questions.
It's yeah, and we have, believe it or not, less than a minute, but I think what we were saying, and I love to use the word transition. It's like transition is the way to go. It's like we don't want to just stay in that same little path that we're on. Let's transition. Let's transition to bigger and better or smaller and more
Right.
whatever's going to work for you. But transition is the way to go. And I'm kind of glad that we did this show because that's
Mhm.
what we want to bring people. So I guess we'll just keep doing it and becoming more and more relevant as we go along. Yeah.
And we are right now transitioning off of the show and
Yes, we are.
and saying thank you all for listening, and
Yes,
we'll see you next time.
yes, we will. Okay, goodbye from the coaching game.
Goodbye from Coaches Creating Change.
Yeah, love it, Terry. Bye.